Cookies are fucked. I don't understand them. I don't get them. Why? You start off with cookie dough, and it's beautiful, and it's delicious, and it's wonderful. It's tasty as hell. And then somebody said, what if we could make it suck a little bit? We could get a little bit more portability, sure, but at the expense of 90% of the deliciousness. I can't for the life of me understand why you would ever want to cook cookie dough.
My wife would agree with you. Cookie dough is well, that's... I mean, you steer your kids away from it, but, I mean, who doesn't like a good thing of cookie dough, you know?
Why would you steer your kids away from it?
I don't know. You're always like, no, you can't eat the dough. You got to wait for it to be cooked. Isn't that what happens? No? You're not allowing them to take big mittfuls of cookie dough.
I encourage that.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. Go over to Two's house where you get mittfuls of cookie dough. Mashup 87. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, Sean.
2024. I'm sitting in Wisconsin, Two's, Alberta, and we're bringing you Mashup Sidney Crosby. Hey? Sid the Kid. 87.
So, hold on a second here. I have week 88.
No, I changed it. We did Festivus. You don't
So
change.
Festivus doesn't count?
Festivus doesn't count.
Did it count last year?
No.
So this is Mashup 89. And
Possibly.
We completely skipped over, what's his name?
Eric Lindros.
Yes.
No, 88 is next week. Doesn't matter. You can't skip over 87. You can't skip over 80. You can't skip over Sid the Kid. He's arguably the greatest hockey player of all time.
It would have been great to have the Festivus Mashup be episode 88, because then we could have just drank till we were as smart as him. No.
Well,
drank till we were concussed.
The big E we can talk all about next week. All right. Mashup 87.
Who's the Sidney Crosby guy, though?
Sid the Kid. He's arguably the best hockey player of all time.
At what age is he going to lose that moniker?
I don't know, because he still looks super young. So
That's just compared to us.
Well, true. Mashup 87 is brought to us today by Alan Huco Cactus Environmental. You know, I met this guy. The first time I ever met Alan was in Neilburg, Saskatchewan.
Nice.
At
and we were just talking about Neilburg a couple weeks ago.
At protest in the middle of COVID. That's how I met him, and got introduced to him. So shout out to Alan. He wanted in on this last year, so he was the first company to jump on for 2024. And so he is Cactus Environmental. They've been in business for 30 years, providing environmental consulting, assessment, and monitoring for pre-construction, construction, reclamation, and spills. And they're also a supplier for EM surveys. That's electromagnetic. Magnetic? Yeah, that's right. As well as phase 1s, 2s, 3s. I'll put the contact details in the show notes for people on the podcast, but you can get a hold of them, 306-821-7541. I know everybody just jotted that down real quick. But anyways, Alan Huco.
It's nice
he's
to
a beauty.
have 306 numbers in the podcast.
It is. Yeah, a little Sasky boy. And he's a gentleman and a scholar. I enjoyed meeting him, and the fact that he jumped on for the first one here. You got Sid the Kid, Alan. I mean, that's a pretty good start to the year.
I mean, unless you're a goalie.
I just want to pat myself on the back just for a second, okay? Mm-hmm. To start the year off, we had a New Year's Eve wedding. I've never been to a New Year's Eve wedding. It was a ton of fun. Great DJ. Fantastic DJ. Congrats to Miranda and Joe on their wedding. And instead of driving back today and taking 4 hours of being like tired and like and racing back, I just told Mel, I'm like, we're getting another hotel room. Like, we're just gonna spend a night. Everybody's gonna be racing to get out of here. I was telling you before we started, in this hotel, they're at 3% capacity. We're like one of 10 guests in the entire hotel. It is empty, and I'm quite excited about it.
You should ask for an upgrade. You'd be like, well, look, if everything's empty, I'm here with my lovely wife.
I would love the presidential suite.
If you guys have one of those suites with a pool in it, or like a lotus pond maybe, or like a scale model of the Eiffel Tower in the lobby of the room that we're staying in, something like that, you could just, I would have no issues with you, bumping things up, because if you guys are slow and bored, why not?
All right. Well, that would have been a great idea. Instead, I just got access
Free
to
coffee.
the free coffee. I was quite pumped about that. That shows what it takes to place your shot today. All right, let's get into it here. We got Mashup 87. Let's go. CBC gives EVs a much needed push. A
Do you
government
get it? Because you need to push them.
A government report suggests federal incentives for used electric vehicles could be in the works as Ottawa pushes to phase out gas-powered cars. Canada's latest emissions reduction progress report says the federal government will explore the potential to expand incentives for zero-emission vehicles program to include used vehicles. But the 3 lines in the report don't offer much detail. In a media statement, Transport Minister Pablo Rodriguez's office pointed to his most recent ministerial mandate letter, which commits the minister to improving the affordability and accelerating the adoption of zero-emission vehicles, including used vehicles, by Canadian households and businesses. During a news conference on Tuesday, Guilbeault seemed to be unaware that the government was considering this move. Quoted, "Right now, the purchase incentive is $5,000. That's the plan we have moving forward," he told reporters. "What will happen in the future? We'll change it. Will we adapt it? I don't know." The federal government announced last week finalized new regulations requiring that all new vehicles sold, cars, SUVs, and some pickup trucks, be fully electric, plug-in hybrid, or fuel cell electric by 2035. The government electric vehicle sales mandate regulations, which include a national target of 100% zero-emission vehicle sales by 2035.
So they're not getting all of this. So we've been talking about this as it unfolds, this big push to get rid of all the gas-powered vehicles by 2035. And it's interesting, the second article from CBC, they're shady. But some of the things in there, they said that the numbers worked out to that EVs are about 15% more expensive than an equivalent gas-powered vehicle right now, including the existing subsidies, which they're kind of trying to say need to get larger, and that the price of EVs has to come down by a third or even half.
Well, they were saying in the report $70,000 for a brand new EV.
$73,000 versus 66 for, and the one thing I thought was kind of funny. So they had recent data shows a growth in electric vehicle sales. They're talking about at the start of this how large the growth in year-over-year sales has been. And it's funny because, all right, let's say you have 1 cent to your name. Okay. You have 1 penny, and then you're walking down the street and you find another penny and you pick it up. Your net worth has gained 100% over a very short period of time, but you only have 2 fucking cents. And that's basically what EVs are in Canada right now. Recent data shows a growth in electric vehicle sales. According to a Statistics Canada report this month, new zero-emission vehicles, which is a bullshit name, made up 12.1% of all new motor vehicles registered in the third quarter. This represented an increase from the third quarter of 2022, when zero-emission vehicles were 8.7% of all motor vehicle registrations. So they're trying to actually slow play this because they talk about new vehicles in one side of this sentence and all vehicles in the other side of that same fucking sentence, because this is what we pay $1.3 billion for, is this hard-hitting fucking journalism that conflates shit. They talked about this poll that autotrader.com did, and I think it was autotrader.ca, maybe, whatever. Anyways, the point is they talked about this poll and about some of the apprehensions that people have with zero-emission vehicles. The appetite for them has gone down by about 30% year over year. Like, there was something like 68% of people who were interested in getting one last year, and now it's down to 53%. So 47% of Canadians say, I'm not fucking interested in this at all anyway. Right? And then they listed a few of the things that people would have issues with. And one of them was not, it if you actually read the whole Auto Trader thing, it didn't get into what the options were, which is suspicious. Anytime you get a survey that doesn't show you all of the data, throw it right the fuck out, as far as I'm concerned, because it said that it was price, inflation, and nowhere on that was, am I going to get stuck in the middle of nowhere and freeze to death? Like, was that an option on it? Is when the battery dies, it's going to cost more than replacing the entire fucking vehicle? Was that even an option? Like, was that in the survey? We have no way of knowing because it's garbage, and CBC just touts it like it's fucking well done.
Well, and I think we should put to the listeners too, because Daniel Smith was on the show talking directly about this. And it says it will start with 20%. So they're setting up a system which every automaker will have to show that a minimum percentage of vehicles they offer for sale are fully electric or longer range plug-in hybrids. It will start with 20% in 2026 and rise slightly to 23% in 2027. After that, the share of EVs will begin to increase much faster, so that by 2028, 34% of all vehicles sold will need to be electric, 43% by 2029, 60% by 2030, and 100% by 2035, right? So what you're going to start to see from a consumer standpoint is you're going to go to the lot, and there's going to be less just straight on. Yeah, that's right. It's going to be like, buy this or. And they know that exactly that's what they're doing. They're trying to push it. Meanwhile, they're like, well, we pretty much need to find a way to make them cut the price by half, which means right now government subsidies are going to have to go up on these suckers.
Yeah, so it's currently $5,000, and it's going to have to go up to something like $35,000.
Correct. And
which means that every time somebody in Canada buys a vehicle, Canadian taxpayers pay $35,000 to the car manufacturer.
Correct, you are. Now we got a couple comments coming in. First, it's Andrew McKay saying zero emission vehicles. He laughs. They probably believe Christy still rides a bike. The thighs say otherwise.
That's pretty true. Also, she does have that lead foot.
And then Matt DeJong, I don't know about you guys, but my electric bill is high enough as it is. Can't imagine it with trying to charge a car plus having to install a charger, which I'm guessing they don't do for free.
Seriously, if Canadian utility bills get any higher, they're going to have to start going to safe injection sites.
Firefighter fights firing with fire. A former Fredericton firefighter who resigned because of COVID-19 vaccine policy for city employees is suing his former employer, claiming he was wrongly advised he'd be entitled to severance pay and pension benefits even if he quit. Gregory Billings is now seeking $280,000 for pay in lieu of a notice of termination, as well as damages for loss of pension earnings up to his expected retirement at the age of 65. Billings also alleges the International Association of Firefighters Local 1053, his former union, failed to properly represent him by not grieving his wrongfully induced resignation. The plaintiff relied on misrepresentation of the city of Fredericton that the retirement was being offered to him suffered damages as a result through loss of his severance pay and a loss of portion of his pension, states the claim filed the Frederick Court of King's Bench by Jonathan Martin, the lawyer representing Billings. The paper, the article, walked through like the entire story, but I mean, it's a story we've heard over and over and over again across all these different professions.
I would say that this one may be a little bit, probably not unique, but part of a smaller subset, I would say, where they basically lied to him to get him to quit. And then we're like, oh, no, that's not happening. No, you don't get any of that. You're out. You quit. You're gone. I've seen this happen a couple times in workplaces where, not this, but have you ever seen where people tend to over believe in themselves and their level of performance, and then they'll just be like, look, here's my 2 weeks notice, and if you want me to stay, you're going to have to pay me more money. And I've seen it happen with two people who were different companies where they were really, really bad at their jobs, and the managers took it and were like, oh, thank you. And they're like, whoa, wait. You're not gonna make me an offer? No, you've already quit. Well, don't you want to keep me? If you're not happy, I guess that's what it is, right? Now this though,
This is a guy who gets in trouble because he's not wearing the mask, not doing the testing.
Mhm.
Then he comes back to work, starts doing it, and they just slowly crank up the temperature and say, if
And
you're not vaxxed by this date, and so then he goes, well, what can I do? He's got options.
and they say, okay, well, you can do this, 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 and this. And he says, okay, well, I can live with that. And then they're like, psych, idiot. And I like the fact that he's going for the whole thing. Although, to be fair, I'd say that this could be a pretty good lesson for a lot of people where if they want you to do something, you make them pull the trigger on it. You don't be like, hey, look, like, all right, if you guys say that I can't work here anymore, I'm not quitting. You have to fire me.
Yeah, it's a game of chicken is what you're
Yep.
playing.
Yep.
Right? You make them do the dirty work because now, like it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully we get to follow along with this one as it plays out more and more and see where it ends.
It'll probably be over years, but yeah.
Smith taking healthcare to the mattresses. There's a new Alberta Health Services Board. Top HS execs have been axed, but it's not over. It's far from over. In fact, it's just begun. Quoted, I'm trying to fix healthcare. I inherited a lot of problems, says Smith. There's been a lot of promises made. Just give us more money and we'll improve care. That's what we've been told for over a decade. We have given more money and care has decreased. We're going to make things so much better. The layers and layers and layers of middle managers has been the problem. Smith says Alberta Health Services has been underperforming almost since the moment it was created, and that was in 2008. Quoted, if I'm successful by the time we go to the next election, everyone will have a family practitioner, whether it's a doctor or a nurse practitioner. Quoted, we will have enough spaces for seniors care that people will be able to choose the type of seniors care for their loved ones and no one will be languishing in the hospital. We will have our hospitals operating efficiently so ambulances are not waiting to drop off patients. They'll be able to drop them off and get them on the road. She continued, the fact that we have managers who are hearing these problems and not solving them, I can tell you, Andrea LaGrange is now highly motivated to start a hospital tour. She's told me she's going to be starting in the new year. She's going to listen to frontline workers. She's going to find the problem on the front line, and she's going to fire managers that haven't been solving them. That's what our focus is. It's firing managers who have been paid to solve these problems, and they've allowed the problems to perpetuate. They've been done nothing about them. If you're seeing patients, we're going to be supporting you. If you haven't seen the eyeballs of patients in a number of years, you better demonstrate your value. There's Danielle Smith.
So the problem with management in healthcare is that it's the same methodology as the Indian Affairs Bureau in Gatineau, Quebec. Pardon me, Gatineau, fucking Quebec. It's a new year. We got to still keep traditions though. And we're gonna hire you to solve this problem. Okay. So that means that as soon as I solve the problem, I need to worry about finding my next job. So what if I just don't solve the problem? What if I need a bigger budget? What if I need more people? What if I just need more resources and I keep asking for it? And because money is always the scapegoat every year with these guys. I mean, we could solve this thing if we just had more money. We're underfunded. Bullshit. It's something like a quarter of our fucking provincial budget goes to Alberta Health Services. It's insane. And on the negative side to Danielle Smith, though, I would say that it's an easy cop-out. Like, she's definitely scapegoating the management who deserve a lot of this flack. But Alberta healthcare is never going to be fixed until you legalize it, like Tim Moen likes to say, where you give people options where they can say, okay, well, you know what? If I want to hang a shingle and if I want to look at people's, I don't know, spleens, and I'm qualified to do it, I should be able to do that. And then there's that much less spleen surgery and whatnot on the system. That's going to eliminate it. But the big one is unions. And there isn't a single political entity in Canada willing to take on the big unions, no matter how conservative they pretend they are. When have you ever heard Polyev talk about unions? When have you ever heard Danielle Smith talk about unions? Because it's political suicide. You're right. You're absolutely right, but they're never going to say it.
Maddie says, give 2 some of that budget and maybe we'll get it fixed.
I could live with that. $20 billion a year. You know what? The thing about it is that you probably could, if you just gave somebody a whole shit ton of money and told them to set up something completely separate.
Here's $1 billion. Go set up a system that we can start transitioning to.
Yeah. Like, really, then number one, we're not going to unionize. And number two, we're going to try and keep it lean. Number three, we're going to look for as many good ideas as possible. Like Stettler is one of the only municipalities in Alberta, I think there's like 3 of them, that have their own independent ambulance. But they get a bunch of funding from Alberta Health Services, which means they're beholden to them. So AHS will call them up, be like, hey, we need you to transport a patient. So use that ambulance that we paid for. Like, yeah, we kind of need it here, though. And they're like, we don't give a shit. We paid for it. Do what we tell you. And they're like, but it's not even a critical patient. Like, we could literally just put them in a car and drive them there. No, has to be the ambulance. And so, like, Stettler actually, they built.
Can you imagine starting up an alternative system where good ideas were promoted? Hey, we would like to solve some problems. Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting.
I mean, it's the Elon Musk approach. They're like, okay, well, look, if something sucks, why don't we stop doing it? And if something seems like a good idea, why don't we try it? Which, if you try and take that approach to a government job, they will fire your ass.
CBC drops New Year's Eve broadcast, 7s of people affected. If this isn't the truest headline you've ever written, I don't know what is. It's funny. I before I get into the story, I literally had this thought last year on New Year's Eve, but I argue with myself if I actually wanted to work on New Year's Eve, that you know how 2's and I did media election, or like the Alberta election. I'm like, we should do a New Year's Eve ball drop. We could probably have a ton of fun with that. A live show and you could bring a ton of guests on. You could just have a ton of fun. And what else is people doing on that night? I'm like, but do I want to work on New Year's Eve? That's a good question.
Yes.
Like that's a really good question. I don't know. You say yes. It's a great idea. I think
what if we just filmed it ahead of time.
Well, you
might just told everybody we were coming live.
I don't know. People know. Anyways,
I mean, I don't think they'll know.
But the reason I thought that idea,
it'll just be some crazy conspiracy theorist, and it'll be like, well, they said that they were going to do this. They have videos on the internet of them saying that they're going to do this, and then they went ahead and did this, and we can say no, that's just a conspiracy theory. It's the WF approach.
That's right. Do it in blatantly obvious, but nobody will believe it because we said, oh, no, that's not right. But the reason I had the thought is last year I'm literally watching the Rick Mercer Canadian. I'm just like, how can Canada be this brutal? This is brutal. Sucks. Just sucks.
What if I think we should.
What if we did a New Year's Eve ball drop that didn't suck?
Yeah, exactly. Also, the next time you have an idea like this, you should probably share it with the other people.
I just shared it. We got a full year to figure it out.
But you could have, seriously, it's January 1st. If you'd have shared this idea like 3 days ago, we could have probably put together something really fun.
I was dancing at a wedding. You know what? That's what I did last night. Great DJ. I was out there dancing, folks.
Okay.
Here's the story. Can I get into the story? CBC drops New Year's Eve broadcast, 7s of people affected. Unfortunately, CBC is not able to produce a live New Year's Eve special this year due to financial pressures, read a statement obtained by CBC News from CBC spokesperson Chuck Thompson and Carrie Kelly, Senior Manager of Public Relations English Communication. That's probably a title that needs to be toast again.
Management.
This year, CBC... went on. What else do we need to? What else do we need to know? I mean, they cut the New Year's Eve broadcast. Why? Because it sucked.
No,
right?
No, they cut it specifically
because
due to financial pressures.
Correct.
Is what they said. Now,
but you know why nobody's freaking out? Because it sucked.
Well, because nobody even watched it. You're like, they still do those things. Like, I was surprised that it didn't even occur to me that they would do that every year. I'm like, this whole idea is interesting and fascinating because the last time I turned on CBC would have been well over a decade ago.
Well, I tell you what, you want ideas. Look at all the big days in Canada, right? And you could take over...
Like St. Patrick's Day.
Well, I was thinking New Year's Eve is a big one. I was thinking Canada Day is a big one. I'm thinking any election is a big one, right? Those are national things that all suck. Our coverage of them all sucks. It just sucks. So right away you could. It's like, well, we could do.
So we
could do
apply the
something on July
Mashup model
1st.
to all these things.
Sure, why not?
Which is, what if we did this specific thing, but in a way that didn't suck?
Right. And all of a sudden you have some fireworks show on July 1st, and you have and you broadcast it, and you bring on guests, and you have a ton of fun with it. It's like,
God damn, that's beautiful, man. And the thing about it is, we wouldn't even have to pay for fireworks. Maybe we could, help out, the respective communities with some of their fireworks. Be like, hey, you know what? If we throw you guys $100 worth of whatever zip zongers, do you guys mind if we film it and live stream it?
I'm sure there'd be some community out there that'd be like, we would gladly have you guys come televise it. It's a great idea. It's just it requires work. It doesn't, as we know from doing the election coverage, it's not like you just show up and everything goes smoothly. There's a ton of work that goes into that.
But we've also learned a lot of lessons. But
yes,
anyway, so they cancel this thing that nobody even knows about.
Well, it's just a blip. Nobody cares.
Well, that's the thing, is that they're the people. This is the exact same thing I was talking about with the underperformers who put in their 2 weeks notice and get their bluff called. They're like, oh, we need more money. We don't have enough money. Oh, well, you know what, Canada? Those things that we've been doing, we're just not going to be able to do them anymore until we get more money. And meanwhile, everybody's like, oh, you're still doing that thing? You're still, and so this is totally going to backfire on them. This is, if I'm guessing right, this is them trying to play chicken, and they're going to start pulling more and more things. They're going to be like, look, we don't have the money for this. We don't have the money for that. And everyone's going to be like, so what? And I hope they keep trying it.
Nobody cared about it. Like, maybe somebody should comment. Did anyone care? Does anyone care about the Canadian ball drop? I tell you what you do that entire night while you're trying to watch Canadian ball drop. You're trying to figure out how you actually see somewhere else, anywhere else. You just want an option to see something else that actually doesn't suck. Because the Canadian one, sorry folks, it sucks. They hit like 5 years in a row. I'm like, why can't they figure this out? This isn't that hard. Like, this is a simple idea. You got so many great spots all across Canada that would be great to have a ball drop and have tons of fun with it. And every year they just suck.
Okay.
Removing
just real quick. Comments if you want. Light up my DMs on Twitter. The text line if you think that the New Year's Eve thing would be good, and maybe Canada Day too. I don't know. I've never really, up until after the convoy, I never really gave a whole lot of shits about Canada Day, although I remember being
but you
offended.
could do that instead of Canada Day. You could do convoy days, and you could have a whole bunch of stuff.
Anniversary of the convoy.
Sure. Well, think about it. You know the entire group to talk to, and you just bring on some sweet Canadians, and all of a sudden you got, like, everyone's like, get around your bonfire, have people over, celebrate, whatever, January, like end of January.
Should
or
we
February.
do something like that? Do some sort of like a anniversary of the convoy celebration?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm more like that. To me, makes a ton of sense.
I'd rather do that than Canada Day.
Convoy days. All right. Why not go from something so like, oh, that's a great idea, to trans awarded for defunding rape shelter? You cannot make this up. A transgendered activist, and actually, while I talk about this, why don't I just bring up the picture? Here we go. Okay, here. Let's make sure we get that in nice and tight. There you go.
Which one's the tranny?
A transgendered activist who had city funding stripped from Canada's oldest rape shelter has been awarded a medal as Champion of Diversity. Morgaine, I don't know how to say it. Ogre, is it Odger? Ogre? I don't know. Well, so, all I can think of is Henry right now. I when I butcher a name. Anyways, Morgaine, Ogre, Auger.
Let's go with Ogre. Let's go.
All right, a transgender
let's
woman.
Call it how it is. And for anybody listening rather than watching, It's an apt name.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay. A transgender woman was given a meritorious service medal by Canadian Governor General Mary Simon on December 7th. Official photos show her receiving the award alongside dozens of other Canadians honored for their exceptional deeds. Ogre said she was feeling so grateful to get a medal for furthering the legal protections of transgendered Canadians. She was chosen for the award in 2018, and it's unclear why it took 5 years for her to actually receive it. And at that time, she was spearheading an effort to strip Vancouver Rape Relief of city funding because it refused to shelter transgender women. Vancouver City Council in March of 2019 pulled its Canada $34,000 a year grant from 2020 unless the shelter, the oldest in Canada that began in 1974, changed its policy. Trans women are women and sex work is work. Trans women and sex workers deserve care and protection, Councillor Christine Boyle said at the time. I can't support organizations who exclude them, so I won't be supporting city funding for Vancouver Rape Relief. And Councillor Sarah Kirby-Yung said they have done fantastic work in our valuable service, but we wanted to make sure they extended it to everyone. If we are giving public funds, we need to give it to organizations that are inclusive. So there she is getting her medal, and at the time she was, yeah.
She looks like a cartoon lizard in a fucking wig. And then, so it's a meaningless award. And this is coming from an award-winning podcaster. Just call it Shrek. It's a man. Yep. That's exactly right. And of course, unless there's something that's changed that I'm not aware of, all of those medals that Mary Simon has are strictly, I don't know, window dressing. None of them are for anything substantial.
Correct. Did you see the Dave Chappelle
that thing about Jim Carrey? Somebody just sent it to me, and I watched it real quick right before this, and I was like, oh my god.
So if you haven't, folks, you should go to Twitter and just search Dave Chappelle. Or actually, I think it's on Netflix, right? It's his new special.
Yeah, I think it's a Netflix special.
Which there's only one comedian. There's only ever been one comedian. I watch everything he does. Dave Chappelle is it. And he has a bit on the transgender
Jim Carrey
thing. And Jim Carrey, meeting Jim Carrey when Jim Carrey is playing Andy Kaufman, and everybody I think knows that when he played Andy Kaufman, he
was
became
really
Andy Kaufman
in character. He did the
for
whole
the entire thing.
Daniel Day-Lewis type situation.
Yeah, and he has a great thing about that. And I mean, if you haven't seen that, that sums up what's going. Like
it totally blindsided me, and you shouldn't tell too much about it.
Okay, well there you go. Go watch Dave Chappelle. You can find it on Twitter. It's just blowing up today. It's everywhere. Mm-hmm. Okay, what else we got going on here?
So anyway, yeah, I'm curious though what the other people who because alongside dozens of other Canadians honored for their exceptional deeds. Like I'm guessing the dude who decapitated somebody on a Greyhound bus probably got a ribbon of some kind, and maybe if there's somebody who, I don't know, kicked several different puppies, they might be getting some type of a crown. And maybe there's some sort of a medal for, I don't know, probably some of those people who burned down the fucking forest this summer. Look at none of those are serious looking people. You've got Mario and Luigi in the front row. And I'm guessing, I don't know. It's hard to tell. You can't really tell from a picture. But yeah, I don't think there's anybody who's, I don't know.
It's just
pulled someone out of a burning building or something. From
trans to breaking, Epstein may not have killed himself. Republican Tim Burchett, Tennessee Republican, touched on Congress's hesitance to release the flight records of Epstein's Lolita Express, allegedly used to shuttle young women to the financier's private island and homes throughout the country and world. Quoted, "Too many of my colleagues, I'm afraid, are compromised in this area for whatever reason," Mr. Burchett told Newsmax this week. Somebody whispered in their ear saying, "Hey, you don't want something to come out on something else. You better keep your mouth shut on this." That's exactly what they've done. Numerous politicians, actors, and public figures were reportedly on Epstein's plane, including former presidents Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy, Prince Andrew, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I should say. Prince Andrew, billionaire Bill Gates, and actor Kevin Spacey. And yeah.
Oh, Kevin Spacey, the guy who it came out that he was like raping a bunch of people, like
Correct.
a bunch of dudes on set.
Correct.
And then he did a whole bunch of movies with Bryan Singer. Like he did Superman Lives and then Usual Suspects, which was a phenomenal movie until the whole thing just sort of, yeah. And Bryan Singer, who more or less just had his own casting couch, but for underage boys. That Kevin Spacey that hung out with him and did a whole bunch of stuff together,
Correct.
ended up going to this island. Go
Correct.
figure, right? None of these things are going to be surprising. It's just interesting how far the lengths people have gone to just not have these released, right? Because I mean, I don't think there's going to be a single name that's going to be a surprise on there. It's not like people are going to look at it and be like, the Pope? I thought he had his own plane. Weird, right? There's not going to be. Yeah.
It is interesting because this falls. All this is coming up as the announcement that New York courts intend to release the names of 177 of Epstein's associates early next year. Like that should be coming out here, like any day now, right?
Yeah.
And so you go, well, I'm curious to see the names. I
just want it out in the open, no speculation. Anybody and everybody's on this list, whether you thought they were awesome or horrible before. And then I want to see the hoops that people are going to be jumping through to be trying to justify why their guy would be going to Rape Island.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. Oh, if you didn't think it could get any stranger, from trans to Epstein to now tree hugging leads to tree sex. This one.
So Vancouver Island is a different sex island.
Here you go. A self-described eco-sexual living in Vancouver Island has opened up about her relationship with an oak tree. Sonja Semyonova, a 45-year-old nature lover and self-intimacy coach, says she discovered her infatuation with nature after confronting what she was missing from human relationships. She was doing some soul searching during COVID walks during the lockdown when she realized that she had been going about finding intimacy all wrong. One realization was that she'd had been craving the rush of erotic energy that comes when you meet a new partner, which is not sustainable. During daily walks past a marsh swamp near her house,
to feel that burning fire.
which led to a grove of trees where her soon to be found companion stood. One particular tree in the grove called to me, so I began to stop daily at this particular grove tree.
She met it on Tinder.
She walked.
Get it, Tinder?
She would take to the walk 5 days a week in the winter of 2020 and began having erotic moments with the tree in the summer of 2021. I began to lean against it, to hold it, and feel held by it. I noticed that I was experiencing erotic attraction.
Yeah, she likes the hardwood, I guess. Could you imagine just like, I don't know, seeing that woman and finding her fascinating and in some grocery store lineup and just being like, hey, how's it going? And then she just says like, you're barking up the wrong tree.
How is this Canadian news?
Because it happened on Vancouver Island. And the funny thing is like there's a lot of big old trees there. There's one in particular I remember going to see that it predates Columbus. It's older than the European discovery, well, the second European discovery of North America. And so yeah, and oak trees take forever to grow, so obviously she's into the older side of things, right? Which, I mean, it's not too bad. I feel like, if she's going to her own personal sex island and chasing after saplings, we might take some issues with it. But as a tree, how do you consent to this? You can't, because, I mean, everything's all like, well, and not wrongly, but, you want to have clear consent for things of this nature. But how does a tree actually let you know that it wants you to leave it alone? Because you're just having your way with it. You're just grabbing it by the acorns and saying, "Here we go."
Argentina begins making small changes. The administration of Argentina's new president, Javier Milei, said on Tuesday this government won't renew contracts for more than 5,000 employees hired this year before he took office. This is like music to 2'sDay, I might add.
Oh.
The move was part of a sweeping plan of cutbacks and devaluations announced by the right-wing libertarian since he took off. I love how they put that right in the article. Took office on December 10th.
Politically neutral libertarian.
To transform Argentina's struggling economy. With inflation expected to reach about 200% by the end of the year, Milei has pledged to reduce government regulations and payrolls and allow the privatization of state-run industries as a way to boost exports and investments. Quoted, the goal is to start on the road to rebuilding our country, return freedom and autonomy to individuals, and start to transform the enormous amount of regulations that have blocked, stalled, and stopped economic growth.
I just wish we could have one in Canada. And I know that, what's his face? Bernier is probably going to be trying to get on this whole bandwagon. He's going to be trying to say that he's the Canadian version of this guy. But I think the difference between Bernier and this guy is that this guy actually wants to win. He just doesn't want to just be the center of attention. But this is exactly what Canada needs. And I would say it's what the States needs. It's what probably just about every country in the world needs, with the exception of possibly Sealand. Although pretty much everybody there works for the government, so maybe they need that too. Do you know what Sealand is?
I'm muted. My entire audio just went to. I have no idea what you said.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I won't let me buzz you. So you
just buzzed me without even hearing what I was saying.
Correct. I was like, it's time to move on. No, I'm kidding. I heard the end of it.
Okay. All right, because I would have been okay with that. I would have been impressed. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what he's saying, but I'm sick of it. Damn.
Okay. Happy news. Happy news, or you want 2's live tonight? We didn't talk about this right at the start.
Okay. All right. Well, look. Okay. So, yeah, if you happen to be in Calgary and you're watching this right now, by the time it gets put up on the internet tomorrow, it'll be too late. But
for all the people tuning into the live stream, right?
Exactly.
Tonight at the Comedy Cave with the boys,
the Danger Cats.
The Danger Cats. 2's is opening up for them. So 2's on the big stage. You know,
so
this big
get
night.
Up there, tell a few jokes. It's
how long do you got, 2's? Do you know?
I got told 7 to 9 minutes. I'm gonna push it a little bit because I think that I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not sure that Uncle Hack knew what he was getting into. And it's funny because, like, I even sent him the audio clip from the show I did in Lloyd. And I was like, well, I mean, what did you think? And then he pauses for a second. I'm like, you didn't listen to it, did you? He's like, well, I'm going to. And I'm like, bullshit, you're not. It's okay. Just admit it. And he's like, yeah, I'm probably not going to. Right? So, like, okay, well, if you're... So he just apparently was like, oh yeah, you want to get up and tell a few jokes? Have at her. And had no idea what it was going to be by the time he agreed to it. So, yeah, anyways, I'm going to try and push the time just by a minute or two. It's going to be hard to get through as much as I'm wanting to. I'm going to tell a few jokes about... Will it be on X? No, it will not be. It's just a live comedy show, just like
live comedy show.
Anything at Yuck Yucks or the Laugh Shop or anything like that, right? Does she have splinters in certain places? I'm guessing that she's worn that part of the tree pretty smooth by this point.
Oh boy.
It's probably it's probably just like a well linseeded axe handle from old time days. Yeah, so that's it. And then here, man visits state park and finds 4.87 carat diamond. Okay, this guy's a fucking idiot. All right, man from Lepanto, Arkansas. You know it's illegal to pronounce Arkansas incorrectly in Arkansas. Like if you say Arkansas, that's illegal.
That's illegal? What are they going to do?
Well, deport you?
Honestly, what are they going to do?
Deport you? I don't know. Maybe there's jail time. I don't know what the punishment is. Anyways, he goes with his girlfriend to the renowned Crater of Diamonds State Park in Murfreesboro, which I'm guessing is a fucking place. It sounds made up, but whatever. Anyways, he takes his girlfriend to the Diamond Park where people just find diamonds lying around and pick them up. And he finds one that's almost 5 fucking carats. So now, regardless of how well things are or aren't going, it doesn't get into it. This guy is pretty much morally obligated to get that thing cut into a shiny stone, put it on a ring, and put it on her finger. Like, if you're going to go to a place where you could scoop 5-carat diamonds up off the ground, you don't go with your girlfriend. It's awesome that he found it. It's great. It's probably quite valuable, I'm thinking.
I would think so.
Dude, know your audience. 9 minutes is 8.5 minutes longer than 2's has ever lasted. Andrew McKay has been kicked off this show.
That's going to do it for Mashup 87. So if you're in the Calgary and want to see 2's live with the Danger Cats tonight, you can do that at the Comedy Cave. The other thing before we hop off, I don't know if anybody's been paying attention on Twitter, but tsunami and earthquake has been trending. I was like, what the heck is that about? Looks like Japan got smacked with a giant earthquake. I don't know if anybody's been watching any of the videos going down there, but look at the water rolling here, 2's on the going back and forth slot, and there's a whole bunch of videos from like people on their houses and like
oh wow,
yeah. So
it looks like one of those plus size passenger planes touched down over there.
High calorie human.
Yes.
All right, Mashup 87 in the books. I'm live from Wisconsin today, and 2's, of course, back home in Alberta. Mm-hmm. We will catch up to you next week when we enter Eric Lindros, Dazed and Confused, and we look forward to that. Thanks everybody for tuning in on a New Year's Day Mashup live, and 87.
I appreciate that, everybody who didn't seem to have anything better to do, because we didn't even announce it ahead of time.
No, and we just rolled on
like, surprise, motherfuckers. And just caught anybody who happened to be online, but it was a good turnout. So
you got any before I let you out of here? I was asking Jack on first episode of 2024 if there was any goals or anything like that. You got anything on the books for 2024, 2's?
Yeah,
I'm putting you kind of on the spot, but
yeah, a little bit. A couple financial milestones I want to hit, and then some stuff with the podcast again, for fuck's sake, Sean, that I'll be rolling out later on this year. And yeah, those are kind of the big ones. As far as being very quantifiable, easily measurable, and then sort of just a generic, I don't know. Things are on a pretty good trajectory in a lot of ways. So Keep with the forward momentum. How about you?
Well, I look at 2024 and...
Well, did you have any big goals for 2023 real quick?
2023, we wanted to hit 1 million downloads, and we hit it. So, like...
What day did you hit it on?
December 31st.
Nice.
It took... I was like, yeah, we're going to hit it. We're going to hit it.
Like, did you have to take time zones into account to give yourself an extra hour or two, or what?
No, I'm like, we're going to hit it. And yeah, we took the full year, man. We took the full year. But moving into 2024, having Jack editing and all the social media push and everything else we've been trying to do and get more active on, we're going to try and get to 2.5. So that's, I look at that number and I'm like, that terrifies the living crap out of me. But we're going to, you got to set these milestones to see if you can push, because if you don't look towards something, you're kind of like, where are you going towards? So on the podcast side, I in the process of creating the war board, because I think it's really important to have, we could signify all these key dates. We got a Saskatchewan election coming, which me and you are going to do live election coverage. We're going to take our second crack at it and do a live election coverage for Saskatchewan. I think that's going to be from a podcast standpoint, the mashup standpoint, I think that's going to be really interesting, because we've had our first crack. We know it's going to work. We just have to fine tune it.
We came away with a lot of good lessons learned.
Yes.
We knew exactly what worked, what didn't, and so there's this very clear path forward in terms of making it better.
Correct. And so
it was already a big success.
So from a mashup standpoint, I have you know, like I think I have two goals. One is to do that one exceptionally well, because I think if we can get that, you know, we had what was the number off the Alberta one? It was like close to 10,000.
Oh, it was like 15,000.
And
we had 15,000 people with no advertising budget.
No advertising, and we bungled
on
it
a non-existent YouTube channel.
Yes.
And the CBC one got like 60.
Correct. And we bungled it over and over again. We couldn't get things to work and everything else.
Yep.
So we're going to make sure that the second time around here, as we lead up to the SAS collection, that one is going to be a success, and we're going to have it make sure it doesn't have any cutoffs. Because you remember, like, we had 15, but then we had to cut it and restart it, and we lost a whole bunch. You know, we lost some of the steam, and yet people still loved it and had a ton of fun with it. And as much as it was annoying, so I got two things. One is for the mashup that we do it extremely well, and two is to, you know, we record live on Monday nights at 9 p.m. and I think we both know have been talking like a little bit more directly about hopefully getting that to the daytime hours. Yeah, and trying to get you know, a sharp 2's and maybe a sharp Sean for that matter too. For all of the people tuning in and watching, it'll be at a little bit more reasonable of a time. You think if you're on the east, you know, we have people who listen to us from Ontario and further.
And
nobody's
they're
very few
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, nobody's wanting to tune into a live show at 11 at night, right? Like, so if we could just push that a little bit earlier and get it so it's a little more reasonable time, I think that bodes well for us across the board. So that'd be my two big ones for this show in particular, and you know, and see where the rest of the year goes. 2024, folks, looks to be a wild year on a lot of different fronts.
I'm pretty optimistic. I'm also really, at the same time, looking forward to seeing how many cool and interesting ways that society just devolves.
Continues to eat itself alive? Yeah,
yes.
No kidding. Well, there you go, folks. 2024. We look forward to being here. Episode 88 coming at you next week, and we're going to have some fun this year. And hopefully a couple new faces will hop on. I don't know. We got to take a look at the guest list. Next week is Tarek Alnaga. Ooh, boy. Here we go. All right. Fire it up. We'll catch you guys next week. Tarek on the show, and episode 88, Mashup 88, coming next week. Thanks for tuning in on a New Year's Day live stream, and of course to all the podcast listeners catching up to us on Tuesday. We'll catch up to you next week. As always, next week. See you then. Thanks, buddy.